mean, I do think we want to stress, really, the extent to which migration is, in many people's views, the big issue of the day, right? I mean, this is a World Bank report, but by Branko Milanovic, who has written for a long time on global inequality. Yeah? And global inequality, argues Milanovic, really means that we no longer are essentially concerned with issues of class and class conflict, though I disagree with him, I think we still are, but we're essentially concerned with the inequalities between countries. And there are enormous inequalities between countries, which is driving the migration pressures. And I don't think these should be underestimated. And I think we have to add to those global inequality pressures for migration the environmental degradation, which we're only beginning to see in reality, and of course political instability. So I would argue that the wish of people to better themselves by crossing borders is really one of the most important issues we have to deal with. Regions have emerged in this discussion, and they emerged in this conference because of for two reasons really. One, the shortcomings and failures of the attempt to manage this issue at a global level. We've had some indication already of the way in which this has been addressed globally. So, we do not have any global institution that has the paramount authority to formulate policies on global migration. We have the IOM, which deals, as has already been indicated, with this kind of management of the migration question. Yeah? There were arguments recently, in the last few years, to set up the global organisation responsible for migration. It got nowhere. The best we've got is the Global Migration Group, which is all the IOs, all the international organisations, all the UN agencies meeting together once every 6 months or a year to discuss. And really there's been very little progress. So there is if you like, an impasse, and it's a north-south impasse. Rich versus south countries constantly argue at the global level in the global forums for migration and development and so on. The demands, if you like, of the south that they should in somehow or other enable their people to move north and benefit from it, and at the same time have some benefit from the south, are not really listened to. So regions come in, if you like, partly because of this failure at a global level to knock everybody's heads together and address the issue. But regions come in also for another reason, and that is the vast majority of cross-border movements of people are within regions. So we're talking about people from Laos and Cambodia and elsewhere going to Singapore and Malaysia within ASEAN. We're talking about people from Bolivia and Paraguay going to Brazil and Argentina within Mercosur or within UNISOR. We're talking about people moving from Romania to the UK, or from Poland to the UK within the EU. We're talking about Mexicans going to USA within NAFTA. The vast majority of cross-border movers looking for work are doing it within regions. So regions, therefore, have to be considered as an actor. So what would we like regions to do if they were to become real players in this business? And I'm going to get your point about social policy and how it connects. Yeah? Mm-hmm. When we would like regions to facilitate the free movement of peoples across borders to look for work without any obstacles. So they could not only travel, they could not only work, but they could reside, but moreover than that, they could access all the benefits that every other citizen of countries within that region might reasonably expect to benefit from: health, education, social security, social assistance, social protection. So the ideal would be a regional regime where people from different countries within that region, from what we used to be called Burma to Singapore, or from Poland to the UK, or from Paraguay to Brazil, are treated as if they were citizens of those other countries. So we'd be looking towards the development of some concept of regional social citizenship. The social policy question comes in here, because I've not only added the idea of the right to move across borders to seek work, but the right to move and also access social entitlements. And one of the problems that I have, and we discussed at the conference, was of the three versions of global migration governance that we had listed earlier on, the better of those three was the human rights agenda. Yeah? So most of us would subscribe to the idea that migrants should have rights, and migrants should have political and social rights. It's easy to say, but then you have to deliver. And the only way you could deliver rights, the only way you can put money in people's pockets so that they actually have benefits if they become unemployed, the only way they can actually get their kids into schools is to fund it, which brings in the social policy dimension. You actually have to realise rights through expenditures from taxation and redistribution and make them available. This is where the problem comes for most parts of the world unstuck, right? Because social policies that do that are nationally constructed. Social policies that do those things are for us, not for them. Social policies are about social contracts. Social policies are about us, the people's home, those who have been here a long time. That is historically what social policies are. You know, they were a contract between some citizens and others to provide for everybody those social entitlements. And so you have the emergence of a welfare chauvinism. You have the emergence of migrants of different categories should not be dependent on the public purse. They should not access welfare entitlements. They should not even get, in some places, emergency medical treatment. That's the problem you have to overcome. And that's where, and here I guess it's just wishful thinking, some would say. I think it's a little bit more than wishful thinking. I think we can work on it. Right? That's where I think regions should be empowered to try to address that question. Right? If it's left to countries, you won't get far. Right? So you really need some capacity on regional institutions, a strengthened regional capacity, a strengthened European Commission, a strengthened secretariat within the emerging regionalisation of Latin America to handle those questions so that you get some element of cross-border redistribution, some element of cross-border regulation, some element of cross-border social rights to provide not only for citizens but for migrants. I just want, I think, to reinforce and make the connection with the point that's already been made in terms of the global care chain. Poor women move to rich countries to look after rich people's children. Yeah, the global care chain. The fact that countries benefit from as was repeating now what was said earlier, the pensions of the rich Americans are paid for by poor Mexicans moving across borders. The contribution to the social welfare system is enormous. And that kind of analysis might just be a little bit useful in challenging the national chauvinism, in challenging the idea that migrants are a waste of space, that migrants shouldn't be providing for these benefits. More of that kind of data might enable us to make progress. So that's how regions got on the agenda. That's what regions could, in principle, do. And I think if they don't, we're not going to make as much progress as we should. But we need also to re-examine the global governance arrangements as well.